Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today. We're going to get started here. Today, we're going to talk about misunderstanding success. So we spoke about yesterday. We spoke about the how do we deal, how wealthy people, how people deal with wealthy people, and talking about they're looking for honor. Today, we're going to talk about misunderstanding success and what does that mean. So the Chovos Halevavos talks and says, sometimes you will find among the money seekers, people who are looking for just for money, someone who has achieved this complete financial goal. Right? So somebody who's set for life. By way of one of the means that he mentioned above, which we mentioned above is someone who maybe started a business, his own thing, and he was successful. He had a successful company, he made a lot of money, and this is what he attributes his wealth to. Or someone who achieved his wealth by inheritance or some kind of similar efforts. Maybe he got it somehow, whatever it is. Such a person may think that the means, the effort that he put into the business, or the inheritance that he got, that is the reason why he is wealthy today. And without these means, without these businesses or the inheritance or whatever it is, he would not have gained any of the wealth that he has to him. He thinks that his chosen occupation or the estate that was left over to him by his parents, that is what made him wealthy. And he thus praises the means instead of the cause behind the means. So what does he do? He says, I am wealthy, I am successful. Why? Because I have a great business. I created a good company. I have a very successful business. Or I got my money because I won the lottery, or because I inherited a lot of money. However it is that he came across into that large sums of money, that's what he attributes his wealth to. Chovos Halevavos illustrates what this person's mistake is. What is his mistake in thinking this way? Chovos Halevavos says, "V'chamahu doime b'zeh." L'adam, similar to this person, is the person who's traveling in a desert. A person travels in a desert for a while and he has no water left and he's dying of thirst. And so what happens is, all of a sudden he finds a bar and there's water in there, but the water is a little foul smelling, but he doesn't care because he's so excited to find water that he drinks up that water and he's full. He rejoices greatly over that water and drank it up. But when he traveled on just a little bit further, just maybe another half hour, he found a spring of water that was sweet water, that was delicious, that wasn't foul smelling. Now, all of a sudden, he starts regretting having to previously drinking the water and filling himself up with the water that was foul smelling and didn't taste really, really good. Had he only known that just a short distance away, he's going to have good water, delicious water, he would never have drank the water that he saw before. He would have held out a little bit longer. So too, the wealthy man who obtained his money through specific means, involved in whether it's work or Yerusha or winning the lottery, whatever it is, and credits his wealth through that means, had that means been withheld from him, he would have obtained his wealth through a different means. So he has to understand, he can't walk around saying that I'm rich because of this. You're rich because Hashem gave you that. But it's not because of something that you did personally. Yes, we have to do hishtadlus. But then again, it has nothing to do with your hishtadlus. It has just to do with the fact that Hashem wanted you to have it. And that's why he made you wealthy. Kasha higdamnu, as we said earlier in the last parak, what did it say? Hashem doesn't have this thing where he's not held up by what if he has to give a lot or a little. He gives things sometimes in the normal course of way. Sometimes he gives it in obscure ways, but Hashem doesn't have any kind of limitations of that. Now, the recognizing the true source of where we get our money and where we get our sustenance, which is we know comes from Hashem, then The Novardiki yeshiva, they had once a mashal. There was a peasant who lived in villages, and he was never in the big city. One day he came to the big city, and they introduced him to a train. He never saw a train before. And they said, if you take the train from here, this city to the next city, you can get there much faster than you can on your horse and buggy. And he said, wow, I want to try this train. So he gets on the train. And as a train, when it starts, it goes very slow. And until it gets up to speed, it has to pull the entire train. So the first train car takes a while till it gets up to speed. Now this peasant from the village, he sees this train not moving. He's all of a sudden he's thinking like, my horse and buggy goes a lot faster than this. What are you telling me? So what does he do? He does the same thing he does to his horse and buggy. What does he do to his horse when his horse is not going fast enough? He starts smacking the horse. So what does he do? He starts banging on the walls of the train. Now what happened actually? As he was banging on it, the train started going faster. Why? Because it took time for it to get up to speed. So he kept on banging on the walls, it kept going faster and faster and faster. And he thinks that because he was banging on the walls, that's why the train went faster. What do we learn from this? What's the nimshal from this? The nimshal from this is, if we go around thinking that because we're banging on walls all day, we're knocking on doors, we're shaking up things all day, and that's why we're successful. No, that's not the reason. You were going to be successful anyway, the same way the train was going to get up to speed anyway. But you were knocking on the walls. So Hashem says, yeah, you don't have full bitachon on me. You need to knock on the walls. You'll get yours, but you're going to have to keep on knocking on those walls. You're going to have to keep on working hard, and what you think is the reason that you became wealthy, that's what you're going to have to continue doing in order for you to become wealthy or stay wealthy. Now, Rav Av wants to talk a bit about the bitachon a person has to have when they have just the bare minimum. Some people live paycheck to paycheck. Some people can't even make ends meet. So what's the bitachon they have to have? How does the mindset work over there? So the Shaar Habitachon says, similarly, when the earnings of a person with bitachon are limited, they amount to nothing more than enough for his food. It is appropriate for him to think of himself and say, the one who arranged my nutrition for me at my mother's breast when I was nursing as a baby, in the beginning of my existence, when I was an infant, providing the amount of milk appropriate for every single feeding, and at the right exact time, no matter if I cried or not, that same person, that Hashem who made sure that I was fed as a baby, if your mindset is that a baby doesn't understand, but a baby gets fed. Hashem sends the mother a specific amount of milk for every nursing, for every time the mother has to feed every feeding, and it happens. Hashem made sure it happens, and it's not like they have to prepare it. It's in the right time. Sometimes the mother will go dry, and that's when the kid gets older and they get weaned off. But what happens then? The mother makes sure that the kid has what to eat once they start eating solid foods. That's the mentality a person who is having this struggle and living paycheck to paycheck has to have. And we also have to remember, Hashem said you're never going to go hungry. He said never say you're going to be rich. He never said any of those things. You just have to remember you're going to get fed every single day. Where do we see this? We see this, the Yidden, when they were in the Midbar. What happened in the Midbar? The Yidden in the Midbar, they needed food. So what did Hashem? Hashem sent them man. What was the whole concept of man? If you put it away for the next day, it rotted out and you couldn't eat it. Hashem wanted to show you, your full bitachon has to be in me. I am going to feed you every single day. Just like I fed the Yidden in the Midbar, every single day they got food. They got food, they got water, and they never had to put away for today and hoard it, when we spoke yesterday, save up for a rainy day, because every single day I made sure they got fed. Now, finally, the Rav Av addresses those whose sustenance comes via means that is not to their liking. But before I go to that, actually, I'm not going to get to that today. We'll start next week. I actually picked up this great book. A friend of mine recommended it to me by David Lieberman. It's called How Bitachon Works. And there's a very interesting piece over here, and I want you guys to listen, understand it, and it might help you a little bit. This world was created. We all know the world wasn't designed to be an easy street. We know that the world was designed for trials and tribulations, the same as a business. We spoke about this last week, 2 weeks ago. Every business has its own its ups and downs, its nuances. Everything in this world is designed in a certain way, and it's not made to just go through easy street. As a matter of fact, so David Lieberman is actually, I think he's about tshuva, and so he brings a lot of points over here from philosophers and stuff like that. So we know, unfortunately, when someone is very sick, maybe they have cancer, God forbid, we know that one of the most important things that the patient needs to have has to have strong willpower. Why do they need to have strong willpower? And the correlation between strong willpower and the success of them getting better has been proven, especially when it comes to people who suffer from depression. People who suffer from depression are people who lose their will. They have no more willpower. And that's the correlation between those two. He says over there, we notice that what's the problem over there? We notice that when someone has a willpower, that pain threshold becomes a lot higher. All of a sudden, they can have a better pain threshold. David HaMelech wrote Tehillim, he says over here. David HaMelech, we all know, in Tehillim is a beautiful, beautiful songs, and everything he wrote over there is about a beautiful life. But we all know David HaMelech did not have a beautiful life. He had an extremely difficult life. So what was the purpose of that? He says over here, meaning fills our lives with pleasure and douses the flames of suffering. Struggles and setbacks are a part of life, but without perspective, they become our lives. What does that mean? You're going to have trials and tribulations. You're going to have hard times. But the willpower, how you approach these issues every single day, how you deal with those issues every single day, that's the difference between living and suffering. We all have issues. Every person on this earth has issues. Some bigger, some smaller, but they're very different for every single person because we all have different things that we struggle with. But the fact that we deal with those issues is what makes us different. We have to understand that, like David HaMelech, he had humongous issues in his life, yet he wrote Tehillim, a beautiful sefer that only talks about praise and song to Hashem. Why? Because he saw things very differently. His mindset was of a positive mindset. We have to have a very positive mindset in order to get through life, i.e., bitachon. If we have this thing in our head that we're worried, and again, bitachon is not only for money, it's for anything. We talked about, maybe someone who has had a hard time with having children, finding a shidduch, with your health, with your kids, with your spouse, whatever those things are. If you take the perspective of, oh my gosh, I have these problems, you sit back and you're going to fail. But what you need to understand, what he says over here in a beautiful, beautiful piece, and he brings the David HaMelech and Tehillim, you have to have the perspective. You have to deal with that. If we don't deal with our issues in a healthy way, we're never going to get through them, and we will fail. And that's what bitachon is. Bitachon is that we know we have hardships, we know we have things we have to work on, but we work on them. And that is the key to success, that we work on our problems and we don't give up. And as long as we don't give up and we keep on pushing further and we keep on growing in your own personal life, you keep on growing, you'll see every single day you'll inch further and further away from negativity and closer and closer and closer to positivity, where those things that bothered you yesterday, whatever those things were, the bitachon is what you needed. When you found the bitachon, when you fully trust in it, it's going to make it a whole lot easier. Thank you, everybody. I really, really appreciate it.
Today's learning should be a schusser for Shalema from Mishillim Ben Suerocho and in memory of our dear friend Menachem Ben Yaakov.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody.